Hey, and welcome to today's episode. On today's episode, I want to talk to you about the centers. Now, for those of you that might be new to human design and be sitting there asking me, the centers, what are you talking about? In your human design, when you look at your chart, you're going to see a bunch of shapes. Some of them are colored in and some of them are white. These shapes are your centers. And your centers are actually what the Hindu chakra system bring to human design. So they are chakras. They are these energy centers that sit throughout your body. Now, each one of those centers carries a specific theme. For example, the solar plexus in human design is all about the emotions. For example, the root center is all about productivity. So each one of these centers has a theme. Now, when your centers are defined or colored in, this is how you show up in the world. This is how you feel to other people. It's your consistent and reliable energy. It's also who you feel you are from a consistent standpoint. It's like this is how you feel kind of day in, day out. Okay. Now, in our undefined centers, this is where we actually take in, amplify, and reflect back other people's energy. So, this is your empathic centers. Now, in my own personal experience and my experience with the thousands of people I've worked with, it doesn't mean, for example, if you have an undefined solar plexus, then you're an emotional empath. But if your solar plexus is defined, then you're not an emotional empath. It doesn't mean that. What it means is that in your undefined centers, you're actually feeling other people's energy because you don't have your own consistent energy that it's effectively there all the time, that shows up and feels like an innate superpower of yours. And instead, you actually feel all the different energy as you move through other people's auras. So, why is this important? Well, I was actually taught right at the beginning in 2018, at the beginning of my human design journey, I was actually taught that in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, the centers are so much more important than type. In fact, my teacher teaches type. I don't know if she still does today, but when I was doing my certification, she taught type at the end so that people would first start with centers and understand their centers before type, because it's also the area where people, when they first come to human design, they can get a little bit confused, or they feel like perhaps their type doesn't resonate. And most often that's because of the definition that they have in their centers. So imagine that we have a manifesting generator, in fact, someone like me, that has three motors, so three of the doing centers. One of them's connected directly to the throat. The other one is another one is my authority. So they play a really big role, and these are consistent energy giving centers. And that kind of makes me, when I read about manifesting generators, I'm like, yeah, that's really resonant. I have a lot of energy. I'm multi-passionate. I'm non-linear. Like a lot of the things that you learn about manifesting generators really resonates. But how about you get a projector that has a defined, I don't know, even like a will center, a solar plexus, and a root center. Now, of course, this isn't common, but a defined root center in a projector is not uncommon. And they hear that, you're people that don't have a lot of energy. You don't get a lot done in a day. When it comes to work, I should clarify there. And this person that's got all these centers defined is going to be like, yeah, that does not resonate with me. I do have energy. And of course they do, because they have the three other motors, just not the sacral motor. So our centers really give us this strong foundation of who we are and why we're here. So our defined colored in centers, these are things that are going to be quite innate. All right, I'll give you an example. I have a defined throat. So, as much as I had a journey, especially as a child, I was very shy, I was afraid of public speaking, all of those things. As I healed and evolved, and the work I do today is very much about using my voice. And I've never trained my voice. I've never, taken speaking training. It came quite naturally for me. So where we have a defined center, that the gift of that center, the energy of that center is going to be quite innate. We're going to be like, yeah, I'm good at that. Or yeah, I feel comfortable with that. I feel confident with that. In our undefined centers, this is going to be something that we've built a muscle over time. Because, first of all, we are often dealing with other people's energy. So, let's say you're a non emotional, so half of the population have an undefined solar plexus. But let's say you grow up in an emotional family. Maybe your mum has an emotional solar plexus. Maybe your brother has an emotional solar plexus defined, and you actually end up getting pinned as the emotional one. You feel emotional. But once you actually sort of grow up and move out of the house, you notice that you're actually not that emotional. It's just like you're emotional with your family. And this is where you've been taking in, amplifying, and reflecting back other people's energy. So, why does this matter? Because what happens, especially if you're listening to this podcast and podcasts like it, then you're on a self development, a spiritual development journey, meaning that you're going to clear out all of that conditioning that makes you behave, and I'm going to continue with this metaphor, emotionally. You're actually going to realize that that emotion was something you felt as a kid that you amplified in your body, but it wasn't yours. So over time, you learn to let it go. You learn to notice that when you are minding your own business, you walk into a boardroom and all of a sudden you feel this emotion rising. You're like, holy shit, this is not mine. I'm not going to sit next to him. I'm actually going to sit over there, the other end of the room. I'm going to get out of his aura. So you build this muscle of being really good at reading emotions and reading the room and knowing who emotionally to hang around and who not to hang around. So you become very wise over time. My personal example is with my thinking. I grew up thinking I was stupid. I was, diagnosed with dyslexia really young, and just thought I was an idiot. Honestly, I thought I was stupid. I couldn't read. No one would like me. And of course, that was all bullshit. But I have an undefined head and ajna. So thinking to me it always felt messy. Like I could never get this clarity. I'd sit in maths class and people would be like, it's obvious. See, if you do this, then this, then this, it's obvious. And I'd be like, it's just, I don't have that clarity in my mind. Now, the woman that sits here before you now, I've spent many years learning how to think, learning how to ask questions, learning how to answer questions. So now it's something I'm really good at asking questions and answering questions, and I'm really good at thinking. But I think outside the box. I think strategically. I think from my experiences in the past. So it's something that I've brought all of my superpowers of my design to make me good at something, but I've worked for that. So I didn't work hard to have a strong voice, a powerful voice, an impactful voice, but I did work hard and a resourceful hard, not an unresourceful hard. Like I didn't hustle. It's just over time I got better and better and better at all the mental things, but it's because I built that muscle. Okay? Make sense? I was first introduced to the Analemma when listening to Luke's Stories podcast, and it absolutely blew my mind. I mean, I understand the importance of water on our health and well-being, but I didn't realize the huge impact drinking coherent water has on our energy, vitality, and longevity. The physical state of water plays such a key role in our biology of life. Did you know that water is the conduit communicating between life, i.e., our bodies, the sun, the earth, and the quantum field? And the more coherent the water, the better the communication. And unfortunately, most of the water that we drink these days has been changed from its natural coherent state through this process of modern water systems and treatments. The Analemma is a tool that enhances the quality of our drinking water by transforming it into coherent, liquid crystalline state, a groundbreaking technology with scientifically proven benefits. I first experienced the Analemma last year after hearing the incredible benefits they had discovered from their 13 plus years of research. These were including things like improved skin, increased energy, balancing the gut microbiome, and research even shows that the Analemma water reduces your biological age after drinking it for just 3 months. I mean, look, I've been drinking it now for nearly 2 years, and look at me. But seriously, I take this little device, the Analemma, everywhere I go because it makes water or any liquid I'm drinking coherent, so my body can get the most goodness out of it, and honestly, so it can also detox all the not so great stuff in the water that I'm drinking more easily. So, if you want to hear my first-hand line 3 experiences of the Analemma on my body, and you want to hear more of their powerful research, then feel free to tune into episode 231 of this podcast. Otherwise, if you're just ready to go out and grab one, follow the links in the show notes and make sure you use my unique code when at the checkout. Enjoy. So, the next little pathway I want to take is into relationships, because I want to share a little bit about how I really identified what my gap was in the way I turned up in intimate relationships. Because I have all of this confidence, I have all of this self-worth, I have this self-belief, I have, unshakable love for myself when it comes to my purpose, to this person that you get to listen to or interact with or work with. However, in intimate relationships, I just didn't have that unshakable self-worth. I was working really hard to do things, like do as much as I could for, my ex. I was working really hard to understand him and to be heard. And like there was a lot of effort going into that, meaning that what I identified is I had low self-worth there. Okay. So oftentimes with human design and the gene keys, our low self-worth is going to be the shadow or fear expression of a certain part of your design. And in this case, because we're centered on centers, I went straight to what's called our connection chart. So our connection chart is when you put two people's charts together. And when you put my chart with my ex's chart, all the centers were defined except for the G center and the head center. So what that means is these undefined centers are our most, they're our greatest growth areas. They'll be our biggest challenges. But as I said, if we commit to learning and growing and evolving with those centers, they're going to be the centers that just feel so like such a good sense of, satisfaction as a manifesting generator, but of, a real sense of, wow, I created that. Like it wasn't easy, but I put down the time, I put in the aligned effort. And now I feel really, in my case, lovable, because both my ex and I, when our charts came together, the G center was undefined. So this is actually where I really started my own personal healing journey, because what the G center tells me is that I have a big question mark over my lovability. If I'm in the shadow of my G center, then I am in this place of feeling like I don't have direction, or I don't know my direction, and I'm unlovable, or I'm, why would anyone love me? And this was such a brilliant experience for me, because I realized that I'd been spending all of these years trying to get validated, trying to, show this person how much I loved him, how much I could do, how supportive I was, and it was all in this attempt to receive love. So my G center was this great teacher, especially early on, thank goodness, that told me every time I hit a speed hump, or which basically means if I felt triggered, or if I felt sad, or if I was, going through a moment of grief, I could allow myself to have those moments, and I could ask myself, am I trying to be lovable right now? Am I trying to get someone to love me? Or do I feel unlovable? So knowing that this is kind of one of my gaps. And even alone, like without the connection chart, just my own chart, I have a wide open G center. So what that means is, and probably why I have really solid self-worth, especially in the work that I do, is because I have a defined will center. So there's been times that I question that. There's been times that that's been low. But my kind of Achilles heel, my wound, my chiron is this: am I lovable? So understanding that about my design and that center really gave me a place to focus on. And still now, I'm like, honestly, I'm working on it. It's crazy because my adult, mature, conscious mind is like, are you crazy? How could you not love yourself? You're awesome. Every human's awesome. Like you love everybody. How could you not love you like that? However, there is still that part of me, part of my ego, part of my inner child that still needs to grow up and to know that she is fully lovable just as she is. So each one of our centers is going to give us another lesson or journey. Sometimes they're going to play a big part in our healing journey. Like my G center is, honestly, I feel like it's my North Star. It's really helped me understand the level of self-love I have for myself in intimate relationships. Because what does it presuppose? If I am looking to receive, like I'm trying to get love from someone else, what that tells me is that I'm not giving me love. I'm not receiving the love from source. I'm not receiving the love from me. If I'm in this place where I'm looking outside of me for this thing, then I am actually the one that needs to love me as I am. I'm the one that actually needs to frame every experience that I have, like even if possible before I get triggered, but once I get triggered, or if I'm facing something challenging, like I'm very conscious, what would the loving version of me, what would be my best friend, my big sister, the person that loves me the most, how would they behave right now? And the next level for me personally, and again, if you're in HDX, I just taught this last week, but you've heard me talk about, I'm pretty sure I've talked about the mirrors on the podcast. Have I? Haven't I? Anyway, one of the mirrors in the Essene texts, which are these 8 ancient texts that were found in the Nag Hammadi library in 1845, was it? That have these mirrors. There's 7 mirrors that basically, the idea is, and the Essene people were actually the people that Jesus, like real life Jesus, not just the story of this immortal human or whatever, the real life carpenter that walked on the land. He and his mother were a part of this religious group, and they were all about creating love and connection. And anyway, so these mirrors actually give us some 7 very specific ways that when we can see these mirrors or these patterns show up in our reality, then, and we can identify which one it is, then we know what needs healing within us. So my G center also helped me understand, because it's the house, it's the center of love. It helped me understand that in one of the mirrors, I think it's the 6th mirror, it talks about your relationship with your mother and your father will be mirrored in your relationship with source, great spirit, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. And that was huge for me, because I had actually, like probably a year and a half ago, it could be 2 years ago now, we did the G Center. We did all these panels in HDX where we actually get people sitting there talking about their, in this case, centers, whether they're defined or undefined. It's freaking cool. I love the panels. And on that panel, I'd said, yeah, I suppose one of the challenges I have with my open G center is that I feel like my connection to source is inconsistent. And when I brought this feeling that I have with my G center, and then I understood this mirror, and what this mirror says is the relationship you have with your mother or father will be mirrored in your relationship to source. And I was like, holy crap. I didn't believe that my mother would come through for me or my father would come through for me. So I was doing the same thing. I was trying so hard to be lovable because I didn't think that my ex or the universe would actually come through for me. Boom. Thank you, G Center, because it helped me find where I needed to look, So I would highly recommend. I did an episode a long time ago. It's number 95 that goes through each center for you. It goes through all the not self themes, and it's just a fun exercise where you can go through and decondition each center. It's a great exercise to do even a number of times a year, every quarter, because these centers really are a place that you're going to start to get a grasp on the greater detail of your design. Once you understand these energy centers and how they work, how defined versus undefined works, what that means for you, what that feels like for you, when you start to look at your design in a way that it's also your greatest teacher, it's your original frequency, you were born with it, it has everything, it's perfect. It's just you've got conditioning that's built up over the top of it. You've just got low self-worth that is helping you only to express the shadow or the lower frequencies of your design. Once you understand you want to raise your self-worth, once you want to get to know this beautiful blueprint of yours and where to look, then all of a sudden you have access to this greatest potential that you were born with. That's there right now. Trust me, it is there right now. You just need to know how to find it. So I would encourage you, as a fun exercise, and I'm in line 3, so I'm always going to give you an exercise so that you can not just listen, not just learn, but actually integrate, is I would encourage you to go back to that episode of my podcast with a challenge that's going on in your life. Okay? This is the 2 ways I really look at my design. What's my greatest potential? What challenge do I have that's going on, and how can my design help me in either area? So take a challenge, or maybe you've got a question like, what is my purpose? Now, getting to know your centers, potentially that's not going to give you a detailed purpose, but it's going to start giving you a really good idea. So either it's a goal that you want to achieve, or it's a challenge that you want to overcome, and you're actually going to get curious about those centers, your centers, the defined or the undefined, and really get curious about, okay, well, what are they here to teach me? Maybe is there one that needs to be cleared out so it can raise its frequency? For example, that's what was going on with my G center, and I'm still working on, right? So I want you to play around. I want you to have a go. I want you to become your own authority and use this human design roadmap of yours to access that greatness through, integrating the knowledge, healing what you need to heal, integrating the shadow, and then really stepping through into your greater potential. Sound good? I hope so. All right. I trust you've got what you needed from today's episode. Have so much fun diving into your centers, and I look forward to having you on the next podcast. Bye for now.